My WWE Battleground 2014 pay-per-view review. A pay-per-view from out there a little while ago. As far as my thoughts on this show, just one word to describe the show, I would say disappointing. That was definitely what this show was. Going into this pay-per-view, I was expecting a whole lot more from it. When you look at the card for the show, it was looking like WWE's best, card the whole entire year. Other than the main event, it was looking like one of their best cards of the whole entire year, and most people said that going into the show. But unfortunately, we did not get the type of show that we were expecting. The only reason why I would say it wasn't a below average show was, shockingly enough, the one thing that kind of made it at least an average, above average show was kind of the main event. The main event turned out a whole lot better than I was expecting. It wasn't great, but it turned out a whole lot better than I was expecting. And the one thing that I was looking forward to a lot was great. Which was the match of the night, the opener with the Wyatts and Usos 2 out of 3 falls tag team title match. That was incredible. So those two things delivered on the show. Shockingly, I didn't think the main event would deliver, but Reigns and Cena were obviously the two people in that match that made that match so enjoyable. The Battle Royal was enjoyable other than until the ending, with WWE basically giving the fans the middle finger with Miz winning it. And then the two things that was the most disappointing things of the night was, first, Paige and AJ Lee. I was expecting a whole lot more from it. It seems like the problem they had with the match, it was better than your normal Divas match, but that's not really saying too much. But it was better than your average women's match you normally see. But it seems like the thing that Paige and AJ Lee had a problem with was, they were told that they were given a certain amount of time. They try to rush it they try to rush the match, and it just didn't come off as good as what it should have. And then the main gripe with the pay-per-view, I think this is going to be the one thing they did the whole night that pissed off a lot of people, even though they kind of did something to save it and make you, interested in it more when it's obviously going to have to take place at SummerSlam. But considering it was the thing that everyone was looking forward to going into the show, especially me, the thing they did with Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose with the match not officially taking place, and they did the whole thing with Dean Ambrose attacking Seth Rollins backstage. He, gets kicked out of the arena. They did that whole type of angle. And then when Seth comes out there, he wins via forfeit. And then Ambrose comes out there. They have a crazy brawl, which the brawl was great, I got to say. And they did a good job making you want to actually see these two against each other. But the whole entire night, especially the pre-show and going into this pay-per-view, other than seeing Reigns and Cena against each other, the biggest thing people wanted to see on this show was Rollins and Ambrose, and that was a shitty thing to do, to not give, especially the people watching on the WWE Network or international on pay-per-view, or anyone that would still buy it on domestically on pay-per-view. But it was a shitty move to do in front of your live audience, not giving them probably the thing they wanted to see the most. And then the other thing was Jericho and Bray Wyatt. While it was good, it could have been a whole lot better. So a number of things on this show could have been better. And just the Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins thing, that was one of the worst things of the night, because they built it up like for this pay-per-view, even though you knew they were going to do some type of bullshit ending to the match if they would have took on each other here to build up to SummerSlam. But they should at least had a match or done something a little bit different, which I'll get into when I talk about that part of the pay-per-view. But they did do a good job of building to SummerSlam, even though I would say the show, basically because, the opener and the main event those two things made it at least, an average, above average show from WWE, but could have been a much better show. The one thing they did do good was relegate the worst stuff to the pre-show, which that's what I'll talk about first. On the pre-show, they did two matches. The first matchup was Fandango and Adam Rose, with Summer Rae and Layla being rosebuds for the night in the corner of Adam Rose. Adam Rose picks up the win here. Quick match. Nothing much to say about it. 1 star. Then the next match on the pre-show was the match that was advertised for the pre-show, which was Cameron versus Naomi. Obviously, this will tie into, the show they do on E, the Total Divas show they do on E. Not that good a women's match. Wasn't the train wreck that I was expecting it to be, but they did do a good job keeping it quick, and most of the offense during the match was Naomi having most of the offense. The crowd was really into Naomi, which says something when, you know, a WWE audience is really cheering hard for a women's competitor. So Naomi was really over with the crowd down here in Tampa, Florida. And Cameron gets the win via a cheap roll-up victory that she won with about, you know, another 1 star, 1 and 1/4 stars. Wasn't terrible. I was expecting a whole lot worse from Cameron and Naomi. Then the pay-per-view started. The opener of the pay-per-view was the tag team champions, the Usos, versus the Wyatt family of Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, and 2 out of 3 falls for the tag team titles. And this was great. This is the one thing everyone needs to go out their way to see. Definitely match of the night, and they booked it in probably the best way they possibly could. Was the first fall went about 5 minutes, and for that whole 5 minutes, the Wyatts were dominant. They were the dominating force, and Luke Harper got the win for the Wyatts. So the Wyatts win the first fall. Then the second fall was kind of more even, more back and forth somewhat between the Usos and Wyatts. And then the Usos win the second fall. They win their first fall to tie it 1-1 by rolling up Luke Harper. So they kind of get the fluke victory right there. And then it goes to the third fall. And when it goes to the third fall, that's when it got nuts. That's when it picked up and turned into a great, great tag team match. Just balls to the wall, crazy, crazy stuff. Tons of back and forth action. Loved it. And the Usos retain the tag team titles. This will obviously be a feud that will continue, which I can't wait to see what they do at SummerSlam, because they'll obviously be having another match with each other probably at SummerSlam. These two teams have very good chemistry with each other, so I don't mind. This is one of those times where, unlike, you know, Cena and Orton, where people complain about seeing, you know, the same match over and over and over, this is one time where it actually isn't bad when we see the same match multiple and multiple times, because they have great matches. Damn good opener. 3 3/4 stars. Definitely match of the night. Then the next matchup was looking like we were going to get Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose for the next match, which was like, God, after that crazy opener, we're going to get Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. But unfortunately, we didn't get that. What happened was Seth Rollins backstage cutting a promo. He gets attacked by Dean Ambrose, and then this leads to Dean Ambrose being kicked out of the arena. More on that later on in this review. Then after that, since you didn't have Rollins and Ambrose taking place right there, then you have Paige versus AJ Lee for the Divas title. This was a match I was looking forward to a lot, because I was like, finally, we're going to possibly get a great women's match in WWE, because both these two competitors, both these two women are great in the ring, and I thought we were going to get a great match here. Unfortunately, the one thing that I think hurt this match was, like I said earlier, was that they were told they were only given a certain amount of time, and both of them just seemed like they kind of rushed it a bit, and they did have a few sloppy spots, but then, you know, it did have a number of good things in it, you know, with Paige actually getting out of Paige getting out of the Black Widow, hitting the Page Turner, so both of them, you know, putting each other's in their submission holds, and hitting their finishers as well. So you saw that in there. And then it came to the end with AJ Lee hitting the Shining Wizard to retain the Divas title. About, you know, 2 1/4, 2.5 stars. Still a good women's match. Better than your average Divas match you would normally see. But these two had the potential to have such a great match. But I guess, you know, mainstream, you know, on WWE pay-per-view or TNA pay-per-view, I'm never going to see the dream of that I want to see, which is, you know, a very lengthy women's match. Give the women time to go out there, 15, 20 minutes, to showcase that they could possibly be as good as the male performers. Unfortunately, WWE does not want to do that. Looks like the only way you'll get that in WWE is on NXT when they do their, you know, specials, you know, kind of quarterly. That seems like the one times you will see it, and especially in NXT, they have a whole lot of women down there that should be brought up to the main roster. But it seems like we'll never get that on the main roster. But like I said, still not a bad match. Just I was expecting a whole lot more from Paige and AJ Lee, because it was one of the things I was looking forward to the most on the show. Then the next matchup was something that thankfully we got back in this era of wrestling. is, the long lost art of the managers, which you got that with Lana and Zeb Coulter, which they really were the ones that sold this match. Rusev and Jack Swagger. Lana comes out there, cuts a promo. She actually does talk about the, Malaysian flight that got shot down in Ukraine. I did not think WWE would go there, but they actually did. And Lana, basically, cut the promo, which in her promo was a lot of truth, even though it was scripted, about, how, people in the West are basically, joining the Blame Russia campaign for, the Malaysian plane getting shot down without any evidence. And instead of getting into, a tangent here, going into political stuff, all I gotta say is I love Lana's promo. Then Zeb Coulter came out there. He didn't get on the mic like you would expect, to go after her, but the crowd was hot for this match. I mean, I'm shocked that this whole this old school type of story and this old school type of match actually worked in this era, and they had a good match. Actually, it was good. I mean, you saw really good back and forth action, an entertaining match. I mean, the crowd really made this match. If the crowd wasn't hot and they didn't care about the match, it would have fell flat, and people would have said, it was okay match, but not that good. But the crowd really made the match, and obviously they'll continue it at SummerSlam. And they actually did one ending. The ending of the match was really done really good. They were outside the ring. Before this, Swagger was working over the ankle of Rusev, locking in the ankle lock. He finally got to the ropes. Then they're outside the ring. Swagger was trying to lock it in again. The referee was in the ring starting to count them out, so it was looking like maybe they were going to go the route of a double count out. And then Rusev reverses it, knocks Swagger into the steps, and his head hits the post. He's knocked out. Then Rusev happens to get in the ring before the 10 count. He wins the match via count out. So obviously this will continue at SummerSlam, which it needs to be. I mean, when you got a feud like this, especially a mid-card feud, and some might even say at some points a lower-level mid-card feud, but mid-card feud nonetheless, to be this hot, you need to continue it as long as you could, because this feud is really helping Swagger, look like a star once again. And I'm glad that the, lost arts of the managers are making a comeback, with Lana, with Zeb Coulter, and Paul Heyman as well. I would like to see some more managers, because that's one of the things that needs to be around more, which is when you got a guy that has a good look to him, or he can wrestle but can't talk, that's what you need. You need to have a manager, and that's what they did here. And just before the match, even with the count out victory from Rusev, it was an entertaining match. I'll probably give it 2 and 3, 4 stars, just because the crowd was so hot. It was an entertaining match, and really enjoyed it. Then after this was Rollins comes out. His music hits. He comes in the ring, and he wins via forfeit. Then his music plays. Then Ambrose comes out there, and a crazy brawl erupts between Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. They brawl all over the arena. Security comes out there, breaks them up. Triple H comes out there to try to save Rollins, and then they just battle across on the stage, and security and Triple H and everyone makes the save tries to make the save on the rampway. Then Dean and Seth battle it out again, and they just crazy brawl. It was very entertaining. It made you want to see their SummerSlam match, but at the same time, you wanted to see at least something on this pay-per-view match-wise between them, instead of just something that would have worked on television, but it's not something smart to do on pay-per-view when you're trying to get people to buy your WWE Network. Not the smartest move. And then after that, they do Chris Jericho and Bray Wyatt, while I'll say it was a good match, I was expecting a little bit more from it. Good back and forth action. Shockingly, Chris Jericho wins the match cleanly with hitting the codebreaker onto Bray Wyatt. Did not expect that to happen, but Bray Wyatt does have a gimmick, and he's so good on the mic that he can kind of take a lot of these losses, and it doesn't hurt him too much. But at the same time, when he doesn't get wins, at the same time, even though he has a gimmick and everything like that, and he's kind of like someone like Raven, where he can lose a lot of times and it doesn't hurt him too much, but at the same time, it does hurt his credibility a bit when he doesn't pick up wins. So it doesn't hurt him, but it does hurt him. So if you understand that, but still good match with Jericho and Bray Wyatt. Just expected a little more from it. Probably 3 stars, 3 and 1, 4 stars. Then after this match, they cut to backstage. Seth Rollins is leaving the arena. He's looking over his shoulders, worrying that Dean Ambrose is going to attack him. Then he goes out in the parking lot. He doesn't have any security around him. And then after looking around for a while, Dean Ambrose pops out of a car, pops out of the hood of the trunk of a car, tries to attack Seth. Seth kind of sees this coming, and they battle it out in the parking lot. And then Rollins hightails it, gets inside the car, hightails it out of the arena, and that ends that. So they did a good job making you want to see that, just like earlier. I wish we would have actually got a match with them, since that was the thing I was looking forward to the most. And then the next matchup was the IC title Battle Royal. This was a very, very fun, entertaining Battle Royal. Unfortunately, WWE fucked it up with the ending of it, especially the winner of it. I mean, this was, other than them not giving us Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins on this pay-per-view, this was the biggest fuck you to the internet crowd. The internet crowd was having Miz win this match. Miz is the new IC champ. It was looking like towards the end that Dolph was going. It was looking like Dolph was going to win it, but they did the whole thing of Miz not getting thrown over the top rope, but he's on the floor the whole entire time, and then he comes into the end and does the cheap win, eliminates Dolph Ziggler, and he is the new IC champ. Not a good move right there. I was wishing someone like Dolph, or Cesaro would have won the match, because Miz as IC champ, no one wants to see. And it's looking like this possibly might lead to, just because they've been doing stuff recently on Raw, it could possibly lead to Sheamus, and because since Sheamus was in this match, I wouldn't be shocked if this leads to possibly an IC US title unification match at SummerSlam with Sheamus and The Miz, because that looks like one route they might go with it, which Sheamus has been doing some things recently that kind of have made the U.S. Championship seem a little more important, so kind of shitty at this moment right now to have them unify it. But at the same time, it might be good to have just one strong mid-card title, but I don't think anyone wants to see just one strong mid-card title, and The Miz has it. No one wants to see that. But as far as the Battle Royal, was entertaining, just a wrong person won. Still fun match, 2.5 stars, I would say, even with the Miz winning it. Then after that came the shocker of the night, which was the one thing no one was looking forward to. I wouldn't say no one was looking forward to, because there was one part of it I was looking forward to, which was seeing John Cena and Roman Reigns against each other. This was the Fatal 4-Way main event with John Cena defending the title versus Randy Orton versus Kane versus Roman Reigns for the WWE title. This was a whole lot better than anyone could have possibly expected it to be. I'm not saying it was a great match, but it was a damn good match and turned out a whole lot better. Started off a little slow. At the beginning, it wasn't too much, and they did a fantastic job of making you wait to see Roman Reigns and Cena against each other. They teased it the whole entire match from beginning. Then towards the middle, you started, seeing it a little more. And then when they finally when they went back and forth with each other, it was some great stuff. And the ending of it was what was perfect. I mean, the best ending you possibly could have done, because everyone knew Cena was going to retain and Kane was going to take the pinfall. But they did a really good job at the end of the match, which was, okay, they did, Kane comes in there, you saw Kane and Roman Reigns going at each other, and it was looking like Kane was going to try the Tombstone Piledriver onto Reigns. Reigns gets out of it, counters it, hits the ropes, hits a spear onto Kane. Orton comes in there, he breaks up the pinfall, and then hits the RKO on Roman Reigns. Then he tries to go for the pin. Cena comes in there, hits the attitude adjustment to Randy Orton onto Kane, then pins Kane. So Cena retains the title, which everyone knew was coming, and everyone knew Kane was obviously the one in there to take the fall, which was the smart move to do right there. But I did not expect that match to be as fun as it was. Wasn't the match of the night. Obviously, the opener was the match of the night, but still a fun opener, a whole lot better main event, a whole lot funner main event than anyone was expecting it to ever be. Main event, I would probably say 3.5 stars. It was a really entertaining main event, and really because of the opener and the main event, you at least had a average show. Maybe some would say above average show, even though, it was a disappointing, especially if your expectations were as high as me and some other people that were expecting, maybe a good to possibly great show. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. But at least you didn't get a terrible show. And I think the one thing everyone will say, even the people that are probably hating this pay-per-view even more than me, I think most people will admit this one fact, is that this year's Battleground is a million times better than last year's Battleground. Last year's Battleground was probably the one time you could actually say the term, this was the worst show of the year, and actually mean it. At least this year, you got a better show than last year's Battleground, and it was at least an average show. And, since you got, one of WWE's biggest shows of the year, SummerSlam, next month, you shouldn't have really been expecting too much from them, but with the card, I was kind of expecting a little something more from them. But still, not a terrible show, and I would definitely recommend people to go out their way to see the opener of the pay-per-view, and even the main event, because the main event, deserves some credit, because I did not expect it to be as good as what it was. And that is it for my WWE Battleground 2014 pay-per-view review. All right, peace.